All right, so today we're going deep on something pretty powerful. The 9/11 Pentagon Memorial.
Yeah.
It's a site, over 1 million people a year go to see it.
It's incredible. Yeah.
And this is something we want to kind of dig into. It's the only one of the three 9/11 attack sites that doesn't have like a dedicated visitor education center.
That's right.
So that's what we want to look at today. The current situation, what the vision is for this center, what progress has already been made, and why this is such a, critical and hopeful moment to actually make it happen.
Yeah, it really is. It feels like, we're nearing completion of the story, and that this visitor education center is at that final chapter that's within reach.
I like that.
And it's worth noting too that, right from the beginning, the memorials in New York and Shanksville, they included those educational elements to provide that context for visitors.
Right.
So the Pentagon Memorial really does stand apart.
Yeah, which makes the need even more apparent.
Yeah. And if you think about it, over 1 million people going to the Pentagon Memorial every year, they're encountering this, profoundly moving outdoor space, this beautiful testament to the 184 lives lost in the attack on the Pentagon.
Right.
But what's missing is that readily available on-site context.
Yeah.
There aren't interactive exhibits to guide understanding or dedicated spaces for in-depth personal stories. And even just like basic amenities, permanent restrooms or a central information point.
Those things really do matter.
They do. They enhance the whole experience.
Yeah, and you think about who's visiting, right? It's not just those of us who remember 9/11, directly.
Yeah, you've got these younger generations that are coming to the memorial.
Mhm.
They have no firsthand memory of that day. And, they may learn about it in school, but without a more immersive experience, it could be tough to grasp the impact in the personal story.
Right. And so many people were affected that day. So it is a real opportunity to make sure that, those complete narratives are being shared and that there's not this like, incomplete understanding or possible disinformation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's an opportunity to really share not only just the events of that tragic day, but also the inspiring stories of the local community, the crucial role that the Pentagon played in the nation's response, the incredible resilience that followed.
Right, because the Pentagon itself wasn't just a target, it was a central command hub for, the whole country's defense.
Absolutely.
So really getting a grasp on what role the Pentagon played that day and in the immediate aftermath
It's essential.
is essential.
Yeah, to truly understand the scope and impact of the attacks. And that's really what this Visitor Education Center, or VEC, is envisioned to do.
Okay, so let's talk about that vision a little bit. So where is this VEC going to be located and what will people experience there?
So the location itself is really significant. It's going to be situated near Arlington National Cemetery.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, adjacent to the cemetery's southern expansion.
Yeah.
So you can imagine the powerful connection that this creates, linking the events of 9/11 at the Pentagon with the final resting place of so many who served our nation.
That's powerful.
It's very deliberate and meaningful.
Wow. And so the center itself, like
Yeah.
what will it offer to enhance a visitor's experience?
So the vision is really to create this inviting and informative space. Imagine interactive exhibits that respectfully and engagingly bring the timeline and impact of that day into focus.
Yeah.
And then you've got dedicated areas where you can hear personal stories from survivors, first responders, families of those who were lost.
Those firsthand accounts are so important.
They are so powerful, and they carry such profound weight.
Absolutely.
And then it also addresses those practical needs we were talking about before, like having restrooms and just a central information point.
So it makes it so much easier to, experience the whole thing.
It does.
What other features are planned?
So in addition to the core educational exhibits, you'll have a cafe and a bookstore,
Yeah.
Offering opportunities for reflection and further learning. There's also going to be an event space, so they can have educational programs, commemorative gatherings, community events. And what's really exciting is that it's going to improve connectivity between the Pentagon Memorial, Arlington National Cemetery, the Marine Corps War Memorial, and the Air Force Memorial.
Wow. So really create like a whole experience there in Arlington.
A more seamless and enriching experience within that whole landscape.
And I would imagine it's a priority to make sure everyone has access.
Absolutely. The commitment from the very beginning has been to offer free admission for all visitors. And that's going to be sustained by a dedicated endowment.
Oh, wow.
So, financial considerations will never prevent anyone from learning and remembering. And the goal is to have this project completed by 2028.
That's amazing. Now, this hasn't just been, a sudden development. What progress has already been made in making this a reality?
A lot of dedicated effort has gone on behind the scenes. $16 million has already been secured through private donations,
Mm.
which really underscores, the widespread recognition of how important this center is.
And that kind of philanthropic giving, I mean, that's huge.
It is.
What about the approvals and the logistical stuff?
Right. So the Pentagon Memorial Fund has successfully navigated, several key approval processes.
Yeah,
They've been assigned a site near Arlington National Cemetery, which was a big deal.
right.
And the concept designs for the VEC have actually received approvals from both the Commission of Fine Arts, or CFA, and the National Capital Planning Commission.
Okay.
So the CFA is a federal agency that reviews the design of memorials and public spaces in D.C. to make sure they're appropriate
Yeah.
aesthetically and contextually.
Right.
And the NCPC is the federal government's central planning agency for the National Capital Region. So, there may be further design reviews as the project moves along, but these initial approvals are big milestones.
Huge. So we've got the design moving forward, the land secured, and substantial private funding.
Yeah.
What other support has been important?
Well, the project has strong support from the Arlington County Board and Virginia state legislators,
Mhm.
so that shows the local and regional significance. Plus, a comprehensive environmental assessment was done, and they found no adverse effects.
So that's another hurdle cleared.
Is.
So it really does sound like a huge amount of groundwork has already been laid. What's the final piece that's needed to really get things going?
Yeah, so the crucial remaining need is $70 million in federal funding.
Okay.
And this is really the final financial step to transition from the planning and design into the actual construction.
And that's it.
Yeah.
$70 million. That's a significant number. But when you consider the importance of this memorial, the number of people that visit every year, the fact that so much has already been secured and approved,
Right.
it really does feel like we're on the cusp of something big.
It does. It does.
So why does this Visitor Education Center matter so much? And why is this moment so hopeful and time sensitive?
Ultimately, it's about safeguarding our national memory.
Yeah.
9/11 was a defining moment in American history, and ensuring that future generations have a comprehensive understanding of its significance is vital. And we're approaching the 25th anniversary of the attacks.
Yeah.
So commencing construction before that milestone would be so meaningful.
And I think that, with more and more visitors who weren't alive during 9/11 or were very young,
Right.
the VEC would be a crucial tool to bridge that gap in understanding.
Exactly. Yeah. And feedback from current visitors consistently shows a desire for more context, a deeper engagement with the events of that day, and the Pentagon's experience.
Right.
So the VC would address that directly. It would provide that essential educational component that's missing right now.
Yeah, and ensure that those stories of loss, resilience, and unity are passed down accurately.
Absolutely.
It's also important to note that this isn't a typical government-led project, even though federal funding is needed.
Yeah.
Explain that a little bit more.
Yeah, this project has been driven by the Pentagon Memorial Fund, which is a nonprofit organization. They're going to continue to oversee the project, not the Department of Defense or Washington headquarters services.
Oh, wow.
So that really highlights the reliance on congressional support to reach this hopeful final stage.
So essentially, we're talking about a memorial that over 1 million people visit each year.
Yeah.
There's a clear need for more on-site education.
Yeah.
We have a well-defined and planned visitor education center that's going to be near Arlington National Cemetery. There's significant private funding already secured. All the major design and logistical approvals are in place. The final piece is $70 million in federal funding to actually start building.
Exactly. And it's not just about building it. It's about completing the narrative of 9/11 at the Pentagon. It's about providing that necessary context, deeply honoring the victims and their families, and making sure that the lessons of that day are never forgotten.
Or distorted.
Or distorted, yeah.
Oh. It's a really hopeful opportunity, and it feels like a chance to, really solidify the legacy of the Pentagon Memorial for future generations.
It is, and the urgency is to act now.
Yeah.
Seize this moment to provide that comprehensive understanding before the passage of time distances future generations even further from 9/11.
So to wrap this all up, we just ask you to consider what kind of impact this will have on future generations when they visit this site and have access to the full story, the context, and the personal accounts that this VEC will offer. And think about how it's going to shape their understanding of this moment in history and what it says about our commitment to preserving the truth and memory of what happened.
Yeah,
It's a really hopeful vision. It underscores the importance of completing this final chapter.
it does.
Thanks for listening.
Thank you.